When we last spoke, Haxi, it was a crisis. Now it's a catastrophe. People in Gaza are waking up to their first morning without fuel. They know that that number that we have for casualties must be partial because people are buried beneath the ruins, and there's so many ruins, people can't even get near them. There's not enough rescuers, not enough equipment. They can't even pull the people out from beneath the ground. And in addition to their health woes, I think the fact that there's no electricity is vital. No electricity and no fuel for generators. I think the only places that will have generators, while there still are stocks of fuel in the Gaza Strip, will be hospitals. Ordinary people won't have that. You'd have to go. I think that we'll see more and more displaced people going to shelters that are run by the UN, although the UN itself reports 11 of its workers, its local workers in the Gaza Strip, have been killed. When I last saw the figures, 11 had been killed in the airstrikes. So no running water very soon no clean water very soon because water in Gaza is really dependent on electricity, on power. It has to be desalinated and so forth. So all of those things together mean a humanitarian crisis it has begun. Not staring us in the face, actually has begun. And, there was all this talk of when will there be a ground operation. I think the humanitarian crisis has taken precedence and has arrived before any ground offensive.
Meanwhile, Israel's newly formed war cabinet has met for the first time, projecting an image of political unity that we haven't seen, it has to be said, in some years.
Yes, I read a slightly wry article suggesting that Hamas has done what Israel couldn't do and actually united it politically, that this attack has had that effect. I'm not sure if that's entirely true. There's a lot of anger against this government, against this Prime Minister and his ministers for the situation that Israel now finds itself in. But I think there's no doubt that bringing in opposition leaders, especially two of them former military chiefs of staff, is an important signal to the people to get behind this government. It's an important reassurance to the people that this government is now not so far right, more reasonable, more experienced. And we know, for example, that the US Secretary of State is arriving today into the region. He'll be here, he'll be in the West Bank seeing the Palestinian leadership too there, the more moderate Palestinian leadership, not Hamas leaders, of course. So all of this is, I think, letting Israel know that there could be a war, it could be a long war, and the leadership is united and the people have to get united behind it.
And Irris, Hamas is still holding dozens of hostages, certainly more than 100. We're not sure of the exact figure. These people are Israelis. They're also foreign nationals taken into the Gaza Strip on Saturday. How does the hostage situation affect what Israel is doing and what it plans to do in the days and weeks to come?
It's certainly an issue. The parents are very vocal, traumatised but vocal. And just last night, for example, we saw a release of footage from Hamas saying, here is a woman and two children being released, some hostages being released. Great excitement. That footage was run on Al Jazeera with the tagline, hostages being released. It was then run in the Israeli media with, a bit more cautiously, and within half an hour, it was plain that it wasn't hostages being released. This was footage taken on Saturday. The woman seen in that footage had actually been interviewed on CNN 2 days ago, in fact. So there was this moment of hope, and it just made you realise how much those people remain a political football. The threats against them being made, we will execute them, they're being killed, just to keep their plight in the public eye in Israel and internationally, seeing there are so many international people being held amongst those hostages. And I did hear the United Nations chief today calling for some kind of humanitarian corridor to allow provisions, especially medical equipment and fuel and food into Gaza. And there has been some speculation here that there might be a deal proposed of, if you want that humanitarian corridor, release at least the women and the children from amongst those hostages. So the hostages are a very live issue, but I have to say, enduring just what their captors are enduring in this huge and consistent and continuous Israeli airstrikes in Gaza.